Hi, students and alumni. I hope this will be a super informative workshop for you. It's about winning resumes, and it's just one of the documents, of course, that you will need for either the grad school option or the career option. Having a resume is going to accompany all those applications. So in this series, we're going to be talking about building a portfolio, how to job search, and I'll give you some interviewing tips as well as how to put the cover letters together and letters of recommendation. So let's talk about resumes today. So in the career option, you will be needing these two documents, resumes and cover letters. You can create both in Optimal Resume, which is the software that the university owns and is available to both students and alumni. There's many different things you can do within Optimal Resume, and one of the coolest things that you can use is the interviewing modules, which will allow you to record yourself responding to questions given by an online recorded person who's asking the questions. So it's a great tool because you can critique yourself when you're playing it back to yourself. So let's go on. Let's see. So also within Optimal Resume, there's several different types of templates. This is something that you can use throughout your working career because it does show examples of resumes of entry-level, mid-level, and advanced level workers or to the workforce. And so, yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. And I'll have a workshop on Optimal Resume coming up shortly. That's the website where you can find the link to Optimal Resume. Okay, so what is a resume and why do I need one? Well, besides probably guessing that resume is a French word, it's a personal summary of your professional history and qualifications. And this professional statement could be your professional academic history and qualifications as well. So it is the marketing tool that sells you to an employer. Once the employer sees your resume, if it's interesting, if it's matching the job posting that they have, and it's error-free, it's complete, they might call you for an interview. In fact, in career services, we have a saying that if you get an interview, you've got a great resume. And then going beyond that, if you get a job offer, then you've got some great interviewing skills. So just keep that in mind. It is a step type process, and based on the levels that you accomplish, you will be able to move forward in the hiring process. So the most effective resume is going to match your skills and accomplishments to the needs of the employer or the grad school. So most grad schools do request a resume as part of the admissions packet. Just keep in mind here that this statement means that you're going to have more than one version of a resume in your filing system. It needs to be tailored to the description of the employer, what they're requesting for a worker, and also to the academic requirements needed for a grad school application. All right. So, as I've mentioned, you should make sure that you know who your audience is. So that might mean that you need to be doing some research on a university where you plan on applying for work. Know about that university, know about that grad school process and know about the program that you want to be considered for. So when it comes to an employer, it's the same thing. You know, you will want to refer to the types of skills that that employer needs. You will want to be familiar with their vision and mission statement. And for your benefit, you will want to know if you're a good fit. And a lot of times that will tell you. But also, if you feel like you are a good fit, you can quote those vision and mission statements and show the employer that you have done your homework and done some research into their company. So we do want to tailor to the posted opening, written in response to the job description, making sure you have the required education and skills needed for this for a job, but also for admissions to grad school. Okay, so the 3 tenets of resume writing. Every resume has a purpose to get you an interview. Everything on your resume should support that purpose, tailoring it to the job posting or the grad school position. And those items that best support your purpose come first. So with an employer, you're going to want to put your education and skills up at the top, skills before education. With a grad school application, you're going to want to do the same thing, put your education before your skills. And skills could mean your field experience and coursework. So, how does it look? What's the format? There have been some pretty creative formats come out lately. Again, be mindful of who is going to be seeing your resume. If you're applying for a barista position, you might want the resume to look more casual. If you are applying for a governmental position or for a grad school admissions, you will want it to be consistent with the traditional format. You don't want to make your resume difficult for someone to read. You want to make it familiar to them and you want them to continue reading, not just beyond looking at the headlines, which is your identifying or contact information. So, one little hint is that this information could be placed within a header, especially if you're trying to get your resume reduced to 1 page only. That's never a requirement, but you don't want a 1-line widow on the second page or 2 lines. You want to try to either make it a page and a half or condense it to 1 page. So if it works that you can put your contact information in the header, it's going to look better overall. Another factor is try to look at your white space. Make sure that there's not a lot of empty white space without information. It just won't look balanced. And again, we want the reader to continue reading and finding out more about you. So, of course, your name is important. If you have a nickname that you go by, you can put that in quotations to set that aside, but you should use your full given name. The address, if you are still a student working on resume, you might have not only your permanent address, which could still be your parents', but also your current address, which would be a Dillon address. So just keep that in mind. Towards graduation, when you are sending out applications or when you are applying for positions online, you will want to use both because you don't want to delay getting word that somebody might like to hire you. Also, if you are sending out, let's say you live over Whitefish, and you're applying for a job in, Coeur d'Alene. So it's 2 different states. if you have the Dillon address on there, that's going to look like that's a long ways away from Coeur d'Alene. Missoula is too, but you're going to be indicating with two different addresses, a permanent and a temporary address, that you are a student. You are not permanently residing in Dillon. So that's just one example. We don't want an employer to look at that and say, oh, I'm not going to pay for this person to relocate. And so, yeah, just be mindful of that. And employers will draw their conclusions based on what they're seeing on your resume. So make sure you use the area code on your phone number. Again, the same thing. And make sure you have a professional email. No slang or, jargon that would be inappropriate for a seriousness of a resume. And then if you have a website URL, and some teachers will do this as well as some art students who want to showcase their work, put that right underneath the email address. So an objective statement. It's different than a personal statement or an essay. It can be optional, but it can also be within the body of a cover letter. So what it does is it clarifies the purpose of your resume. It tells the reader why you are sending your resume to them. It's a 1 to 3 sentence summary of your areas of expertise and career interests. Even to a grad school, they're going to want to know what you plan to do after grad school. And so then it's also written using a complete sentence or descriptive phrases with minimal punctuation, not a lot of dashes, hyphens, not a semicolon or a colon. Okay, make it complete sentences, make it very precise and descriptive. So it's going to relate your existing skills directly to the job or the grad school program you are seeking. Here's an example. So you want to make sure that this statement, whether it's on your resume or within the body of a cover letter, you want to make sure that it's talking about the give and take of a relationship with a student to a grad school program or a worker to a job. Okay? So express what you can do for them rather than what they can do for you. So you want to avoid statements that focus only on what they, or in this case, a school can do for you, a new teacher. So it's saying, and this could even be like for the student teaching resumes. So a position where I can gain experience working in a classroom. Well, first of all, that's very much understood by a school district. They know that student teachers are student teaching for exactly that reason. So you don't really need to point that out to them. What sounds better, looks better, and is more honest and truthful is I'm seeking a student teaching position which will allow me to apply my academic knowledge and experience in elementary education and further develop my teaching skills. Because again, picking this apart, if you are not able to apply your knowledge and experience, well, you're not going to be able to further develop your teaching skills or gain experience working in a classroom. Both have to happen. Keep that in mind, and the employer or school is or grad school is going to appreciate knowing that you're there to give as well as receive. So in the education section, you want to list the most recent degree first. And even if that's a degree you have not yet received, it's still going to be at the top. So you are in university right now. You will not graduate for till the end of the semester. And so you will put that at the top of your education section. University of Montana Western. You're going to put in the location, Dillon, Montana. Does not need to be the specific address. The degree you pursued and or earned, and what was it a minor or a major, and then the date of graduation or the expected date of graduation. That could also be known as the anticipated date of graduation. Make sure the degrees are spelled out, not a BA or a BS. You can also include honors, awards, or relevant coursework under the school information. People that have been on the dean's lists for many, many semesters like to have the dean's list information under their education section and not in a separate section. But you could have a separate section of honors and awards and relevant coursework separately at the bottom of your resume, along with maybe volunteer service. So you can include your GPA if it's over 3.0, but realize, and I'm just going to read this sentence, that some positions will ask for transcripts to confirm your GPA. So number one, you want to be honest and not exaggerate. But number two, if you do not need to put in your GPA, because it's not an education position or it's not a position of importance to security, national security. I'm thinking of government positions. They do want to know what your GPA is. Then that's not necessary. That's also something that you can talk about in using other language within a cover letter. So if you haven't graduated yet, you might consider this entry. University of Montana Western, Dillon, and then Bachelor of Arts, anticipated May 2020. Major, elementary ed, and also in education, you're going to have a minor. In this case, it's literacy, K-12. A GPA of 3.8. All school districts, all universities, community colleges will request transcripts to make sure that you are qualified as an educator. And the only way they know that is by looking at those transcripts. So be familiar with that, and that you will be requesting that from Montana Western when you're ready to graduate. All right, experience section. In chronological order with the most recent first. For grad school applications, this resume is going to be more about the field experience. It's going to be more about the coursework you've already had, because they want to know if you are prepared for grad school. They are expecting you to have some knowledge about the program that you want to be a part of. And so this is where you're going to show them that. So you might want to also show the volunteer experience that you've had. So this experience could be paid part-time or full-time regular work. It could be your work-study experience. It could be field experiences. I want to just say, especially in the science field, the experiences you've had collecting data, soil samples, just anything that you might do within our science program, as well as volunteer work. If you're a teacher planning on teaching, this is going to be important for you. Club and campus group involvement. Grad schools want to know how involved you were as an undergrad. Employers are going to want to know how you get involved with the commitments that you take on. And employers will just appreciate knowing that they have somebody who does like to get involved with different aspects of their employment. And then also specific course projects. So if you were accepted to present your poster at the National Center for Undergraduate Research, which was in Bozeman this last year, this is exactly where you want to talk about it. Continuing on. All right, so required information, the name of the employer or organization, where, the position title, dates, duties, responsibilities, and accomplishments. Here we are talking about volunteer information and work experience. For the coursework field experience, it should be under a section entitled Relevant Coursework or Relevant Field Experience. Student teachers going on the Seattle experience is definitely something you want to list. For HHP students, going to those conferences is something you want to talk about. For science students, going up to Big Timber or being involved in any of those groups and organizations in natural sciences is going to be important for the employer, grad school to know. So, importance and relevance. Probably don't need to know about some of the things that you did at Western, so definitely make sure it's relevant and make it easier to read using bullets and spacing. That's real important. And like I said, the section needs to be titled appropriately. And then you can also focus on transferable skills. So for an employer, that could mean, customer service. That is a transferable skill. Usually if you've developed customer service skills at one place, you will be practicing them because you've been trained to do that. And that's really so important when it comes to an employer looking at your resume. How much time am I going to have to spend training this person to do the job? Or how much experience do they have that's going to allow me to do other work while I can rely on them to do what they need to do? It's really the mindset of an employer, so just keep that in your mind as well. When writing about current job information, you always use the present tense. I'll give you an example in a minute. And then so when you're writing about previous jobs, use past tense. So you want to use adjectives. So that could be provided, provided customer service. Whereas if you are still doing a job where you're giving customer service, you would put provide customer service at the front desk, something like that. Just keep that consistent because they will notice writing errors as well. All right. So checklist for student teaching experience. List that relevant experience. That's going to be the week-long observations that you've done. You know what that's going to be. Make sure you've got that. Field experience, substitute teaching. Oh yeah, Rural Fridays. That's big. That's really big because that's hands-on experience right there. Service learning. A lot of educators are doing service learning at the same time, but that can also be done. I've seen that with business students as well. I've seen that with HHP. So just keep in mind your entire career at Western and how that's going to serve you going forward. Other experience is going to be the work and volunteer. All right, other categories. So I mentioned before, some education-related honors and activities can be listed up in the education section. But if you have won a writing award or some other type of award, and that would be presenter at NCUR, as I just mentioned, this is where you want to list those kinds of things. Other activities that you might have been involved in a education student would be homework help. So keep those things in mind. If you volunteered at the Beaverhead Animal Shelter and you hope to be applying for a veterinarian grad school, well, you can see how important that would be for the grad school to know that just shows more experience working with animals. So put these things together. Also, we don't want to take for granted the skills that we have that are really important to almost any kind of work. And part of that is going to be your skill level in computers, IT technology. Can you put together a page for parents online? Can you put together a remote learning program online for students? Just think about right now what teachers are having to do all over the country. Having those skills is definitely an asset in providing that for your students. Also, foreign language, we know, is one of the most difficult things that people can learn, especially as adults and older students. So just, talk about that. That shows that you are willing to take on difficult coursework like that, but also that's a skill that an employer or a grad school could rely upon. I've sought out Spanish speakers to help me translate more than once in my job at the university. Excuse me, at the university. All right, so what to avoid? We're getting ready to wrap it up. And then you're going to want to go to Optimal Resume and check out our examples. So you don't want to be too wordy, lie, or exaggerate. You never want to plagiarize your someone else's resume on your resume. You want to use narrative language in the cover letter, and a resume should have bullet points with precise and specific skills or duties. So make sure you have an email address appropriate for business. Do not put your photograph on there. Again, this is not about how you look, it's about your skills and education and experience. Do not state personal identifying data like physical appearance, marital status, age, gender, religion. The best way a person can tell how old you are, for instance, and this could be relative because sometimes they want people with more experience than what their age may say, or they want somebody who is more, I don't know, just not as old because they're working with younger people. So don't give them that you want them to pull you in for an interview so that you can sit across from them face to face and talk about your skills, talk about who you are, not prejudge you based on a photograph. Do not list your high school experience, when you graduated. Everyone knows most high schoolers graduate between 17 and 18. They're just going to add it to the current year, or and they're going to know how old you are. That's not important. The fact that you are in university means you graduated high school. So just remember, this is about what is relevant. And so age is not relevant at this stage of applying for employment or for grad school. At the same time, the initial application is not the time to discuss history or your salary requirements. You don't want to put that information in a cover letter. You only want to talk about salary, history, or your requirements
once you have been offered the position. Okay, keep that in mind. That's going to be after an interview. Try not to make it all about me, or using the pronouns I, me, your. Um, Keep it in the third person or at the distant observing person, and you writers know what I'm talking about. But it's all about the facts, okay? It's all about the information, not about the person. If you choose to go to a career fair, that you are able to walk around and talk to employers, you can take some hard copies of your resume cover letter, um, maybe some work that you've done. If you're an art student, you might have your portfolio with you to show things, and or you may want to give out a business card. But use some light colored paper, and it should be bond, not a oh, thick or heavy um, type paper, and not a real thin copy paper either. So look at paper before you just order a bunch, and make a good decision on that. It should only be printed on one side. If it's you should use a laser printer so it's not going, the ink is not going to bleed. So be consistent with the format all the way through. In your cover letter and your resume, you can develop your own stationery that's recognized by the employer or the grad school as being yours, and that just makes it look more professional. You don't want the fonts too small, no matter how much information you want to share. Please do not do that. You want this to be absolutely friendly, reader friendly. They need to be able to see it, not strain to see it, and you don't want to look like you're taking up too much space, and because you don't have experience by making the font too big. So, yeah, it's all irrelevant. Okay, so length. And we say a one-page typed resume. That's not going to be the case for everybody. But if you are an entry level student, okay, which you are, if you're still in college, you don't really need more than one page. But let's also get real about this. And the reality of it is that when you attend Montana Western, you have opportunities for field experience that other undergrads in other colleges do not have. So just for that fact alone, yours is going to be longer. Don't worry so much about how long it is. Really be focused on putting that relevant, precise information, well written information on the resume. Keep it to the purpose that you are writing it. A job, grad school application. That's really what you need to be working toward. Like I said, print it with a laser printer so ink's not smudging or bleeding. Frames, lines, borders, all of that kind of fancy stuff that makes a resume look like a flyer isn't really impressive to vice president of a company. They're not going to want to see that. A government agency is not going to want to see that. I know they're clever, they're creative. It depends on what type of a job you're applying for. But a reader of a resume from to a professor or to an employer should not leave them puzzled. They should not have to walk their way around that resume trying to find out the information they really want to know. And when you go down one column and then over to the next side of the paper into the second column, that is not what they are used to seeing, and that we just don't want to frustrate them in that way. There probably will be a day when resumes are accepted with different types of formatting, but for right now, The whole idea is making this, appeasing the reader and making sure that they are happy and wanting and are attracted to your resume. So you can use bold or italics to emphasize major points. So sometimes that might be a job title is in italics, and then the location, the city, state is in regular font, or you might use a job title or a place in bold, italics for the job title. You can mix it up, but make sure it's consistent clear through the resume. Keep it current and update it periodically. Please remember to proofread. I can tell you that the English tutors have been trained in looking at a good resume. They know what to look for. They've had this workshop, so they are going to be really helpful if you come in. But more than that, the person that is working with resumes and reviewing resumes consistently is going to be the career services assistant. And we are doing resume review on Wednesdays. Walk in. You don't have to have an appointment. We're setting aside time, 2 hours either in the morning or in the afternoon. And it's every single Wednesday of every block. So tune in to the Career Services website to find out what time it's being offered for the block that you're in at the moment. All right. So questions. You can write, call, or come in to Career Services at the Learning Center. We're on the lower level of the library, right next to the cup. Yeah, stop by the cup and then come on over and we can look at your resume. For resume review Wednesdays, just check in at the front desk and tell them that's why you're here. If we have more than one person waiting, we'll put you on a list, sign you up, not a problem. If we can't get to you that day, we will definitely make an appointment with you to go over that. But also attend the workshops that we have, because this is where you can bring your resume, but also your questions. And if you need help with Optimal Resume, we can sit down beside you and show this to you. We also have a new number for career services. It's 683-7004. So you can call and leave a message and make an appointment request. Or you can try and reach me too. I'm Susan White, the program manager for the Learning Center and for Career Services. And my number is 683-7143. So good luck with your resume writing. Thanks for sticking with this workshop as I've narrated. There's a lot to think about, but you really learn this information once, and then you're only going to have to review it a few times in your life, and then you'll be the expert at resume writing, showing someone else or explaining to someone else how to do it. So yeah, good luck with it, and let's hope your resume is a winning resume that gets you an interview.